Please tell me your name and what organization you're with right now.
My name is Stephanie Salas, and I am self-employed. Um, the name of my business is Stephanie Ann Salas, MD, PLLC.
And so you are a doctor.
Yes, I am a physician.
Okay. I appreciate you doing this for me. I'll ask you some basic questions. Let's start off with a typical day in the life for Dr. Salas.
So a typical day for me is working as a physician in my office, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I see patients during those hours. I'm also dealing with training my staff. I'm a new business owner, just opened up my office, so we're doing a lot of training on equipment, on policy, and in terms of just orientation of the staff to the office. Also training an administrator that I just hired, along with taking care of patients, spending a lot of time interviewing patients, diagnosing diseases, and managing healthcare issues with my patients.
How much time do you think you spend? What's a typical hours a work week for you? 50, 60 hours?
It's at least 60 hours. I'm in the office from 7 a.m. Preparing for the day, and I don't leave the office until well after 5 o'clock, sometimes up as late as 10 o'clock at night.
So you'll see patients from, say, 9 to 5?
Yes.
And then before then and after then, it's administrative work?
Correct, yes. And also following up on patient issues and preparing
Okay.
for the next day.
How did you get into this field? What made you want to be a doctor?
So I decided to be a doctor late in my educational career. It was when I was in college. Most people decide they want to be a physician when they're 3 or 4 years old. Well, I did not have that insight at that time. I always knew I was headed towards college, and I always wanted to work with people, and I had a very strong background in science. I loved science. I loved how the human body worked. I was always inquisitive. I also enjoyed mathematics. I was very much into the academic world, and I was actually en route to being a statistician. I actually majored in statistics, and once I decided that I was interested in medicine, I changed my major to zoology. And so instead of graduating in 4 years, I graduated in 5 years because I had to take prerequisites for medical school and take the entry-level exam called the MCAT and so forth, so extended it out an additional year. But I decided I wanted to be a physician because it's a marriage of science and sociology, and I found that I was equally balanced in both areas. I was really good with writing, I was really good with verbal, but I was also good with science and math. And so in my mind of being a physician, you have to be able to do both very well. I did not have any role models growing up. I did not know any physicians. I had never worked in a hospital. I was never around patients. So it just felt like the right field for me to be able to do what I really like to do. And so it was sort of just out of process of elimination.
Okay, thank you. I'm going through something similar in that I've decided when I go for my master's now that I'm going to do a dual master's, but that adds an extra year
Wow.
to my schooling,
Yes.
but it's still, it's not another 2 or 3 years.
Right,
so.
right. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Awesome.
Okay, so what do you think we were most successful at? Which majors, obviously, do you need to become a doctor? I mean, you mentioned zoology. I don't see how that really lends itself
Yeah.
to.
Studying of animals, right?
Yeah.
So at the University of Florida, where I went to undergrad, they did not have a bachelor's in science in biology. It just did not exist at that time. So the closest to that was zoology. I had went to guidance counselors and told them that I was interested in medicine, and they guided me towards zoology because having strong knowledge of science is advantageous for medicine. However, that is not the case in general. You can major in anything. You can actually major in sociology or anthropology, because for medical school, there are a set of prerequisites that you have to take, and certainly the sciences are one of them. You also have to take chemistry, you also have to take physics, and a certain set of courses before you can actually apply for medical school. So,
Okay.
yeah.
What are some of the most satisfying aspects of your job as a physician? And maybe if you could talk about being a small business owner as well.
So, one of the most, I think, satisfying part of being a physician is being able to communicate with people. Um, it's not something that was very natural for me because I was shy, so it helped open up a lot of those shy feelings that I had about verbalizing and just eye to eye contact, and be able to sit down with patients and have them trust that you're, really listening to them. So communication is one of the biggest things I strive for. So I really enjoy talking to patients. I'm a talker. I've been able to come out of my shyness and really bond with patients. So being able to feel like patients can trust me with their most deepest symptom, or their most painful symptom, or whatever it is, just to talk is one of, and to be able to listen, to actually be able to, there's a difference between hearing and listening.
Yes.
To be able to really listen, which is more active part of communication, to me is one of the most satisfying. The diagnosing part I also love, being able to figure out what's wrong with the patient. And most of that comes from just being able to listen to the patient, being a good listener.
And what do you find most satisfying about being a small business owner?
So being a small business owner allows me to have a sense of ownership and control. I've always been employed, and I'm glad that I had that experience of being employed, because it did help me be able to open up a business, to be able to understand all of the inner workings of having a small business. But it is very demanding. However, I get to control my schedule that fits my lifestyle. Also, being able to employ people, other people who need work for livelihood, that's also satisfying, that I can actually help somebody help their families, etc. And again, it's a vision that I have, being able to put my dreams into an actual business model, and to be able to offer something that's different than what other doctors are offering. Right now, no one's going into solo practice.
Right.
Everyone's being bought out. And so I want to provide a different kind of quality of care, more personal, because you don't see that nowadays.
Very true. So speaking as somebody who is now a small business owner, what percentage of the time are you on the computer? And if you could break that out between the difference between spending time and doing the medical diagnosis,
Okay.
and then actually running the business.
Okay, so it's so important now to be on the computer with medicine. Everything is about data collection, data processing, and with the advent of electronic medical records, you almost have to have a computer. We have many computers in the office, and they're constantly being utilized. I would say from a patient care standpoint, I would say it's at least 70% of my time. When I go into the exam room, I have my laptop, and I'm diagnosing and charting and all of that sort of stuff. So it's a high percentage. I would say at least half of the time I'm spent from the medical aspect of the patient care. The administrative, it's 100%. We do everything. We are a paperless office, so all of our we have a cloud-based system for our electronic medical records, and also our non-patient records. Anything administrative gets scanned into the cloud.
Right.
So we are constantly on the computer. We're basically pretty
All
much
the time.
online.
Okay.
Everything.
So a couple of questions ago, you had mentioned being a small business owner allowed you to have the lifestyle you wanted.
Yes.
how has this career choice affected your lifestyle now that you're a small business owner? But I also want to hear about, as a resident, when you were starting off, did you have any personal time?
So starting out after medical school, I did my residency, University of Texas in Galveston, and that was like my first experience being a physician. And what I remember from that experience is no, I had no life. I had probably, yes, I had a better life than what I have now as a small business owner, but at that time, you're basically just learning how to be a doctor. I didn't know anything about, being a doctor other than from what I read, and even that's a whole new world. So most of my free time was in the hospital. If I had any free time, it was just maybe a couple hours here and there after work. But it was mostly catching up on sleep, and then we did have time off, like a couple of days a month to just relax. But it was pretty much every single day for 3 years straight. Yes.
So now,
Maybe 4 weekends.
as a small business owner, you can kind of choose your lifestyle, but there's still some demands on it.
Yes.
So talk to me about what it's like as a small business owner.
So as I mentioned, it's a new business, and I did not know how to start a business. I didn't know anything. It's sort of like I'm starting all over again in terms of not really being a doctor, but just learning how to open up a medical practice. I mean, it's extremely time consuming. If I look at residency, compared to residency and doing what I'm doing now, I would say multiply my experience, my workload in residency by tenfold, and that's what I'm doing now. It's the hardest thing. I can't even combine my work as a hospitalist and residency,
Right.
Being more taxing than what I'm doing now. It is nonstop. I can't turn it off. And it's just because it's a new business and we're still trying to find the coordinating of everyone's actions and role playing and just getting it towards choreography. And it's really hard. It's just, this is my first time off in the past 6 months, and I'm still not like off in my head. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's hard to turn the switch off that,
Yes.
hey, I'm not at work anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's more taxing now because it's in the beginning stages. And I believe next year, hopefully, it won't be as taxing because we would have worked out all the kinks.
Okay.
So,
Skipping a little ahead, what I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. Knowing what you know now, what would you have liked to have known before you started? As a small business owner, what advice would you give yourself going into this?
I would have really focused on staff training. I just thought that because I'm a good doctor and I have years of experience, that opening up an office was going to be easy or not easy, but I just underestimated the workload because I thought, okay, I could do it all, but you can't because you're going to be I'm supposed to be focused on patients.
Mm-hmm.
My staff represents the business.
Right.
And if I could do it all over again, I would have spent a year just training staff.
Wow. Okay.
I would have just trained staff on equipment, on policies, I didn't have that before I opened up the business. I didn't even know about having a office policy for this, for that, for anything. I just opened up, had no office policies. Although I had some, but they were not really, they weren't enforced. So there's a difference between having something on paper and actually enforcing it. And then staff training. I would have spent at least a good 6 months. I would have hired my staff first.
Right. Get them up to speed on how you want things run, and then...
Yes, and
Okay.
train them and vet them and see if they're going to be a good fit for the office. But I've already gone through 3 rounds of staff.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been my biggest thing. And then also understanding New York law in terms of all of the intricacies of opening up a practice, all of the legal red tape, and I would have spent more time studying on that. What I did focus my time on is buying equipment and infrastructure of the office, which really that's easy compared to what I'm doing now, which is all the other stuff.
Okay. So my last question, I want to take you back to you were a resident, and then you worked for IHC for how many years?
For 4 years.
For 4 years. And then you said, you know what, I want to open my own business. How did you come up to that idea that that's where you wanted your career as a doctor to go?
Right. So actually, after I worked for IHC for 4 years, I also I went to Florida. I was in Utah. I went to Florida, and I worked there. I did a lot of travel work, but I worked for a hospital in Pensacola, Florida, as a hospitalist. And it was after those years of being a hospitalist physician, I just wanted to do something different. And that's when I decided I wanted to just open up my own office, because I saw the way healthcare was going, like very much like a fast food industry. Yes. And patients were being shuttled through. And see, patients are already adapted. They've been brainwashed, because now they expect to see a different doctor every time they go in. It's almost like they don't even care. Just give me a doctor. So I wanted to just, from, what I feel the way medicine should be practiced is continuity and not discontinuity. And I just wanted to bring order to a system that I see is very disorderly and disorganized, and it's going to eventually collapse. It's a broken system, and every doctor I've talked to has felt the same way. It's uncoordinated, not coordinated care. And I just wanted to have that. I'm in the middle of my career, and I really wanted to be able to see the rest of my career go forward in that direction, rather than this fast-paced, treat them and street them model. I mean, for me, I don't see myself doing that long term at all.
Well, Dr. Salas, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.